Hello, good morning and welcome to Business 360. My name is Blyden Ukem. On Business 360 this morning, we begin with how much a 2026 Winter Olympic gold medal is worth. We'll begin from there. The medal athletes win during the 2026 Winter Olympic in Milan could be far more valuable than in past games because of soaring gold and silver prizes. Olympic gold medals are no longer made of solid gold. The last time a pure gold medal was awarded at the 1912 Summer Olympic Games in Stockholm, Sweden, and Bobby Eaton, an Olympic memorabilia expert at Boston-based RR Auction, said. And now the International Olympic Committee only requires that gold medals consist of at least 92.5% silver, considering according to IOC guidelines. Olympic gold medals today are composed of 500 grams of silver plated with 6 grams of pure gold. Silver medals contain 500 grams of silver and no gold plating, while bronze medals are solid bronze. At current precious metal prices and based solely on mineral content, the so-called medal is around $2,500. On Monday, the price of gold rose to $5,090 per ounce. 6 grams is equal to 0.2 ounces, giving the gold containing $18. At $83 an ounce, the silver contained in the gold medal is worth about $1,463. That would make a gold medal worth $63. That would make a gold medal worth $2,481 just based on the value of its component. Gold prices soared to record high last month, surpassing $5,000 for the first time, as investors flocked to the precious metal to hedge against risks related to geopolitical uncertainty and rising global debt. Athletes who sold medals, of course Olympic medals, typically have a far greater financial value because of their historical significance and collectability. Even athletes who wait to try to sell their medal soon after the games, they could fetch between $50,000 and $80,000, Eaton said. There's a discrepancy between the medal's value and actual collectible value, he said. While most Olympic athletes hold on to the hard-earned, in 2013, one of 4 gold medals won by U.S. track and field athlete Jesse Owens at the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin was auctioned for $1.47 million, a record for an Olympic medal, according to SCP Auctions, which handled the sales. In Africa, a new study released by the Africa Finance Corporation has indicated that the continent holds an estimated $29.5 trillion in mine-side mineral value, representing about 20% of global mineral wealth, yet captures only a fraction of the economic value embedded in these endowments. The report, launched at Mining Indaba in Cape Town and titled Compendium of Africa's Strategic Minerals, estimates that $8.6 trillion of the continent's mineral wealth remain underdeveloped, which is attributed to fragmented geological data, uneven coverage, and limited transparency. According to the study, improving the availability and quality of geological data is a necessary first step to de-risk projects and unlock exploration capital. The AFC argued that mine-site valuations significantly understate Africa's true mineral potential because they exclude the value created when raw minerals and raw materials are processed into steel, aluminum, fertilizers, batteries, and alloys. When measured at the point of industrial use, the report states Africa's mineral endowment expands by an order of magnitude, revealing substantial latent value. Still in Africa, startups in Africa raised a total of $174 million in January 2026 through deals valued at $100,000 and above, including equity, debt, and grants, excluding exits, even as the number of deals dropped significantly. This was disclosed by Africa the Big Deal, a platform that monitors activities in the continental startup ecosystem. According to Africa the Big Deal, The figure is significantly lower than the $276 million raised in January 2025 and below the monthly average of $263 million recorded over the previous 12 months. However, it is higher than the total recorded in January 2023, which was $106 million, and January 2024, $85 million. Among the biggest of fundraisers was Nigerian Mobility Financing Startup, which secured $24 million in a mix of equity and asset-backed debts. The raised positions marks as one of the continent's top recipients of capital in January and reinforces investor appetite for asset-backed mobility and transport financing models in key African markets. Now to Nigeria. Power generation companies under the aegis of the Association of Power Generation Companies have urged the federal government to extend its proposed 3.6 trillion naira power subsidy payment plan beyond 2026, warning that while also strengthening fiscal transparency by making subsidy obligations explicit and better accounted for. Still in Nigeria. Petroleum products marketers have hinted that fuel prices may drop nationwide in the coming days as the parity between imported petrol fell below the Dangote refinery gantry price. The president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abubakar Maigandi, disclosed this. His comment followed data from the major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria that showed that the average cost of imported petrol stood at 77 naira per litre cheaper than Dangote refinery's gantry fuel at 799 naira per litre. Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria's data on Friday showed that the landing cost of petrol stood at an average of 721 naira 80 kobo per litre. Meanwhile, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) has dismissed claims circulating about a purported secret ban on amoxicillin. In a statement by NAFDAC, the Director General, Professor Moji Shola Adeye, she said that the agency has neither secretly nor openly planned a ban on amoxicillin. This was in response to a viral social media post claiming that NAFDAC had banned the antibiotic. It clarified that the agency publicly notifies Nigerians of any regulatory actions through official channel. In recent months, NAFDAC issued targeted safety alerts on certain brands and batches of amoxicillin. These actions were specific to identified products and do not constitute a ban on amoxicillin, NAFDAC added. Meanwhile, the Corporate Affairs Commission has disclosed that it now processes close to 10,000 business registration requests daily, a dramatic leap from the few hundreds recorded in its early years following the full deployment of artificial intelligence across its service platform. The Commission, however, admitted that a transition to an AI-driven portal caused disruption and temporary setbacks in productivity and service delivery in 2025. The Registrar General of the Commission, Hosseini Magaji, made this known in Abuja at the Open, where he described the milestone as a defining moment in Nigeria's economic formalization drive. The event theme, Upholding Public Trust Through Excellent Service Delivery, was held to celebrate the Commission's resilience, teamwork, and institutional evolution since its establishment in 1991. The Commission was established by the company are likely to retire without any form of pension or retirement savings, the Director General of the National Pension Commission, Omolala Oloworarin, said. The PENCOM DG stated this while speaking at the presentation of a licensed accredited pension agent's certificate to Awaba, the first company to be accredited under the Commission's new pension agent framework. According to her, Nigeria's pension reforms have largely benefited workers in the formal sector, leaving the vast majority of informal workers outside the pension safety nets. Citing data from the National Bureau of Statistics, the PENCOM DG said over 90% of Nigeria's workforce operates in the informal economy, yet pension coverage among this group remains at about 0.25%. Meanwhile, the National Pension Commission has revealed that Nigerians, especially in the informal sector, can now contribute their pension using their smartphones and USSD amid the launch of Nigeria's first pension-accredited agent named Awaba. And now we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, Business 360 continues. And up next would be the global economy. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's your Business 360, and my name is Vladimir Kim. And now we'll be looking at global economic standings, the global economy around. On global economy, a U.S. flagship have been advised to stay as far as possible from Iranian waters when navigating the Strait of Hormuz, as tension between Washington and Tehran remain elevated. In a notice issued, the U.S. Maritime Administration said ship captains should decline permission for Iranian forces to board U.S. vessels. Boarding attempts include a move to force commercial vessels into Iranian waters through small boats and helicopters. Have occurred as recently as February 3rd, the agency under the Department of Transportation said. Should Iranian forces board a U.S.-flagged commercial vessel, a crews were advised not to forcibly resist the boarding party, the notice stated. It added that refraining from forcible resistance does not imply consent or agreement to that boarding. The advisory recommended that ships transiting eastbound in the Strait of Hormuz stay close to the Omani side of the waterway. The guidance followed a round of indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran held in Oman on Friday, centered on how to approach discussion over Tehran's nuclear program. The meeting marked the first talks between the two countries since U.S. bombers struck 3 Iranian nuclear sites during a 12-day war with Iran last June. A narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea has returned to the spotlight this year after Trump warned of possible military action against Iran. About 13 million barrels per day of crude oil transited the Strait of Hormuz in 2025, according to data from market intelligence Kepler, accounting for nearly a third of global. Iran has in the past threatened to close the strait during past confrontations, raising the prospect of higher oil prices. So looking at global economy now, Bangladesh has secured exemptions for some clothes and textiles that are made with U.S.-produced materials as part of a new agreement announced. As part of the deal, Washington will also cut its tariff on Bangladesh from 20% to 19% in exchange for Dhaka to open its market to a wider range of American goods. Industry forms the backbone of Bangladesh, which is the world's second-largest exporter of clothes after China. The South Asian country has been in long-drawn talks with the White House after President Trump imposed sweeping tariff on global trading partners in April last year. And I'm going to further conversation looking at the state of Singapore even further, but we'll get to do that after this time out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to talk about the details from Singapore and what's happening in the economy of Singapore. Apologies for that, not time for the markets, but we continue looking at global economic standings, and afterwards we'll get to talk about the markets. As Singapore economy grows 5% in 2025, upgrades 2026. Singapore's economy expanded 5% in 2025, easing from 5.3% growth in 2024, but exceeding the Ministry of Trade and Industry advance estimate of 4.8%. The Ministry of Trade and Industry also upgraded its 2026 growth forecast to 2 to 4% from 1 to 3%, citing greater resilience in the global economy. The Trade Ministry said a sustained artificial intelligence boon, expansionary fiscal policy in major economies and accommodative global financial conditions are expected to underpin global growth this year. And up next, will be the market, looking at the commodities, FX market and the stock market. The market next. A faster market outlook, the offshore yuan advanced 6.9 per dollar today and near its highest level in 34 months as momentum builds after Chinese regulators urge banks to curb excessive exposure of U.S. treasuries. Financial institutions were advised to rein in treasury holdings and trim positions where exposure is high, citing concerns over concentration risks, and to mitigate the impact of uncertain U.S. economic policies. The shift underscores a broader global move away from dollar assets and failed expectations of gradual structural shift in China's currency strategy, especially after President Xi Jinping outlined ambition for a powerful currency in state media earlier this month. Corporate demand for yuan also continued to surge ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday. And now to the market, the Euro-USD market, and afterwards we're going to talk about the state of the Naira as well as the cryptocurrency market. A Euro-USD market indicates a price level of 1.19 a position for $1 equaling €1, rather for €1 equaling 1.19 US dollar. No significant change in this market, a 0.04 percentage gain for the euro. The pound falling by negative 0.18% against the pound, and the Australian dollar also against the US dollar, rather, and the Australian dollar also falling against the US dollar. Let's look at the state of the Naira, a US dollar against the Naira. A US dollar against the Naira price level stands at 1,354 Naira to $1. The dollar falling by 8.9 points against the Naira, a negative 0.66%. The US dollar against the South African Rand, the US dollar gaining over the South African Rand, but no significant change in the market, a 0.04 percentage appreciation, indicating a 15.8 Rand equaling $1. And the Zambian Kwacha at 18.8 Kwacha equaling $1, the dollar falling, but volatility quite low in the market. Quickly, let's look at the state of the cryptocurrency market this morning. The price of Bitcoin in the market stands at $69,103 for one Bitcoin. A Bitcoin falling 1,001 points in the morning market, a negative 1.43% decline. Ether at $2,017 for one Ether. Ether falling 85 points, a negative 4.05%. Binance also falling. It seems to be a negative market for the cryptocurrencies. Cardano, Solana, Ripple, Polkadot all falling. And now to the commodities. Oil holds advance. WTI crude oil futures hovered around $64.20 per barrel today, holding on to gains from the previous session amid lingering tensions between the US and Iran, despite signs of progress in recent talks. However, uncertainty remains over a potential breakthrough as Iran continues to insist on maintaining uranium enrichment, a key sticking point for the US. Investors are also monitoring developments on India's purchases of Russian crude after the latest US trade deal with India was linked to a freeze on Russian oil imports. India is one of the largest buyers of Russian crude, and any halt in purchases could significantly support oil prices. And now to the markets, the energy market first, afterwards the metal and agricultural commodities, the energy markets. Energy market indicates a price of crude oil, US crude, at $64 per barrel. Crude oil dropping 0.125 points, a negative 0.19%. Brent, which represents Nigeria's price benchmark, price level standing at 68.9 US dollars per barrel, downward by 0.133 points, negative 0.19%. Natural gas dropping, gasoline, heating oil also dropping, coal gaining just slightly 0.13%, TTF gas, UK gas all falling. Most of the market seems to be on the negative. Quickly, let's look at the metal commodities. A metal market. The price of gold in the market stands at 5,048 US dollars per ounce, falling by 10.37 points. Silver price 82 US dollars per ounce, also dropping. Copper price falling. Steel price falling. Lithium gaining 500 points this morning, and iron ore gaining. But the bulk of the commodity market seems to be on the negative, especially the metals. Agricultural commodities. Agricultural commodities what comes with impending feature. The price of soybeans at 1,109 US dollar per bushel, dropping 1.47 points, and wheat price dropping 0.94 points this morning. Lumber gaining, palm oil price also dropping 64 points, and it's the order. And now to other markets, as Alphabet is to issue Century bond to fund AI. Alphabet Incorporation, the parent company, Alphabet Incorporated, the parent company of Google, has announced plans to sell a 100-year bond as part of the major debt issuance to fund its artificial intelligence initiative. According to reports, the 100-year bond will be denominated in sterling, alongside 4 other tranches in the currency. A person familiar with the matter who asked not to be identified added that a deal which marks Alphabet's debut, a sterling sale, could be priced as early as today. Data compiled by Bloomberg indicates this marks the first sale with such an extreme maturity by a technology firm since Motorola issued similar dates in 1997. And lastly, on Business 360 this morning, Champion Breweries allots a 14.9 billion naira shares in right issues. Champion Breweries plc has officially announced the result of its recent right issues, confirming a total subscription value of 14.91 billion naira. In an advertorial published, the brewer said the announcement followed clearance from the Securities and Exchange Commission with the rights of a recording 93.71% subscription rate. According to reports, Champion Breweries plc in its right issue offered 994,221,766 ordinary shares of 50 kobo each at 16 naira per share on the basis of 1 new ordinary shares for every 9 ordinary shares of 50 kobo each held as at the close of business on Thursday, 4th September 2025. According to the firm, a total of 170 acceptances for 931,712,324 ordinary shares were received and processed. According to the company, all applications were found to be valid under the terms of the issue, and no application were rejected. Finally, let's look at the African stock market and what the market says this morning. The African stock market. African stock market indicates the Nigerian stock at a price level of 174,886. Nigerian stock market gaining 934 basis points this morning. SA all are falling by 72 basis points, and the South African stock market SA40 dropping 15 basis points. Egyptian stock market gaining 48 basis points, that is EGX 30 in the market, while stocks in Nairobi also gaining slightly. It's the story of the market and the direction that comes with it this morning. Thank you for being a part of it. It's Business 360. My name is Bladon Nukem, and thank you for watching.